la liberté, which is vive le freedom, vive le Senegal, vive le Lions of Teranga, crowned champions of Africa against all odds, against the Morocco who are pulling off. You know what? We'll talk about it. My name is Jay, and coming to you live right here to up front following that Afcon final. Chuck, how are you after that? And how are you, just
I
generally?
wanted to celebrate United winning, but I was like, Senegal and United. Like, what South African affiliation can I celebrate? Maybe the Sharks, Stormers, the plethora of the rugby
Freedom,
sides
Chuck.
did win.
We
so-
celebrate freedom. We are South Africans who understand that very deeply in our souls, and
But
freedom
Ufika,
prevailed. Justice prevailed.
What if I'm a freedom sheep? So I don't know how much freedom as South Africans we're aware of. But anyway, I think, Jay, can we go into it?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to bounce this back onto you because I want to take a comment from Walid Regragui. Is that how I pronounce his name?
Regragui.
Regragui. The acts from the Senegalese coach, or the team, in fact, was shameful. It was a shameful view of Africa because it's the Afcon final. You guys have a call that you don't like and you want to boycott the entire final. It was shameful. And I want to say, Senegal, the lesser of the evils of the four teams that we were speaking about last week, we're like, no to Morocco, no to Egypt, no to Morocco, no to Nigeria. And the lesser of the evils, obviously, we support Bafana, was that particular side in terms of the teams who should win it, the team who should win it at the end. And after that display, are they still...
Yeah,
What's up?
Chuck. Yeah, Chuck. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't have a horse in the race in the form of our own national team. In the absence of that, when we were previewing the semifinals, does your support lie? To whom do you throw your weight behind? And I said very clearly, Chuck, it's Senegal. It must be Senegal. Partly because Senegal, along with Nigeria, if I'm being totally unbiased, I've played the football I've enjoyed watching the most at this tournament. But if I put them alongside Nigeria, there are other reasons for why I'd never support Nigeria. Egypt, likewise, and Egypt are the record champions. I just don't want to see them just continuing to add to their number and getting that far ahead of everybody. And then Morocco, right? And I say this as a South African football fan. I'm just tired of the narrative that they run African football. And you know what? I mean, in one part of my life, I support a dynasty in the form of Sundowns, and I also support Real Madrid. Another part of my life, I'm an Arsenal fan. So I've known struggle, I've known hardship, and there's something about football and the underdog, right? We don't love dynasties. I think as somebody who speaks on sports, as an observer sport, I do love dynasties from a historical perspective because that takes some doing, and it's always something fun to get into and to talk about, you know. But in terms of like being right there on the ground in the deep throes of what the game of football is about, we love seeing upsets. We love seeing the underdog rise to the top. We love seeing what we perceive as the what did they used to call this in the Attitude Era of WWE, the corporation. We love seeing the corporation being taken down, right? And you have a social justice hero come up and wave his flag as I'm here to save the game, so to speak. And we create these things, they become larger than life, whereas they're just football. You know, it's the game. So in that regard, Chuck, out of those four teams that were left in the semifinals, Senegal are non-threatening in any sense that I can view for me, right?
Yeah.
as a South African football fan. So the outcome is one I was happy about.
I mean, I have to take those comments, right, made by the Moroccan coach and think to myself, I mean, I didn't throw my weight behind Senegal. I think they were the lesser of the four evils that were presented to us, but I thought that Nigeria would go all the way based on the football that they displayed in the knockout stages, and just coming into the tournament, coming to the knockout stages. The goals that they scored, the combination Yaga Lukman Osimhen, I thought was enough to get them over the line, but it was only good enough to get them that bronze medal. I think, Jay, okay, we're getting to the final now. You concede a penalty, which I think was legit. Like, I don't see the controversy. Had it been something akin to Bafana Egypt game, then you're like, okay, either one of those things are contentious. And I think in both decisions, I was like, it was the wrong one taken for Egypt and against Bafana. But that one for me was clear cut. You pull the player down and you're the guy who's going to win the header. It's not even stuff that's happening in the background. That is where the focal point of the action is happening, and you commit that foul deep in the game. And already they were protesting. Like, Brahim Diaz was the one who was pulled down. Here's the one gesturing to the referee. Did you not see that? Are you not going to check the screen? Are you not going to do anything about it? And he was like, calm down, I'm looking at that. Senegal already protesting. Like, Anaz Noguti, what this guy did, but all of you already protesting. And we lost, I think, I get it, this passion. I know it's do or die. It's the final. Things must happen. If they don't, you go home as the second place team, and it doesn't really matter. You failed anyway. But he went to the screen and there was like 50 people behind him. And we know when the ref goes to viewing that screen, you're not allowed to be within 10 meters of that screen, giving me space to listen, to talk, to decide and make up his mind. But there was stuff happening in the background. And when they say finally it's a penalty, which was clear cut for me, the only reason why it was brought to the screen is because he didn't see it. Had he seen it himself, I believe he would have given a penalty on the spot. And then when the penalty decision is given, before the kick is even taken, bayangala, bayahamba. I don't want those to be my champions of Afcon. You guys got a call that was legit. That's not going in your favor. Deep in the game, and you guys want to walk off. Fine, credit to them. They did come back to want to complete the game again. But for me, I'm like, those can't be the champions. When the going got tough, you guys literally exited the pitch. And I think it's shameful to Africa because who else has walked out of Champions League final? Who else has walked out of Euros? Maybe you refresh my memory. In recent times what has happened. Maybe in the 50s, 70s, 80s. I don't know. I haven't seen all finals. But if you were to do that, my champion. There's an asterisk for me in terms of how they won it legit. It was a football match. They scored the goal that was decisive by Papa Gay. That was a wonderful strike, worthy of winning any title. But in terms of how it panned out, I'm not happy with that win, Najee.
So you would not want a Senegal, because of that moment, to be representative of you as the champions of Africa, because as I'm hearing you, they brought disrepute to the game. And would you attach the word shame as well?
I think shame is a heavy word, but considering the fact that I haven't seen any of these players do that for their club sides or any other place. It's Afcon, it's the biggest stage for Africa, and this is when we've got record viewership. I think ever since we've had the Afcon broadcast all over the world. All eyes are watching that particular game because it's the final. You've got your big guns there, the favorites are there, and that happens at that particular moment. Shame is a bit strong, but I'm leaning towards that.
Chuck, I don't think that's a bigger moment or a bigger controversy than Morocco being crowned champions, having seen the referees clearly favor them during this tournament. Very, very much emblazoned in my brain is when it wouldn't have changed the result ultimately, but just even against quote unquote the minnows, still the referees were favoring them, is the moment against Tanzania when a Moroccan player clearly pushes the Tanzanian player to the ground in the penalty box, and there's nothing. There's nothing from the ref. There's nothing from a VAR, and we saw similar calls go the Moroccans' way. So even in the final, when you have the disallowed goal, perhaps it would have ended up disallowed anyway. But the referee cannot blow when we've got VAR technology. Cannot blow for the foul while a Senegalese player is rising up to head the ball towards goal. Let the goal stand, as we know what is the protocol of VAR, and let VAR review it, right? So I don't think, Chuck, that Morocco winning would have been these now are the angels, or this now is the face of Africa. Look at them. They're heroic in how they've gone about it, I say that to say I agree with you in terms of I don't think there was a moment to walk off the pitch for where Senegal are concerned. I don't think it was the moment itself that led them to walk off the pitch, if I'm thinking about it, because
it's a combination of things.
I think it is a combination of things. Coming into that final, they lodged an official complaint in terms of their travel, in terms of their hotel, in terms of the ticket allocation for their fans, where the things that we have heard time and again about North Africans and how they treat other clubs in Champions League or CAF Confederation competition when they come to their home. Now seeing it on the biggest of stages where we know it's Morocco and they're at home. They haven't won it in 50 years. Again, as we're saying, they are world champions under 20. We know what they've done with the women. They're under 23 Afcon champions. They recently won the Arab Cup and they're about to host the World Cup. They are the number one brand on the African soil in terms of where football is concerned, and they want this to be their crowning moment, right? And that whole thing felt as if that they were doing everything in their power, even beyond what should be the legal parameters to make sure that happens. And the team, the nation that caught the full force of that were Senegal, because they were the last frontier standing in the way of Morocco achieving all of their goals, right? And I think, therefore, Senegal coming into the final already had a chip on their shoulder because of what was happening prior to that. And then, as I'm saying, the call, right, which just reinforced in their minds that this is what we are faced up against. There is no situation where we win this game. And so when they then get a penalty, and that's going to be the last kick of the match, this is how it's about to end, I think the emotions are in overdrive. Now, is that right? No, it's not. It's not right that they walked off for those reasons. If, very honestly, Chuck, it was a phantom foul where we clearly see, even from replays, that there's absolutely nothing here. Even this particular call where they are making sure that Morocco are winning this, then I get that, right? Because walking off the pitch is a big deal for me. This is one thing that I've presented as, I think this is what players should do in response to racism. When you are being racially abused, one of your teammates is being racially abused by the crowds, walk off that pitch. That's it. We're not playing anymore, right? Forget taking knees, forget banners. This is what we are doing. So I mentioned that, Chuck, because that's the height, right? The threshold for walking off the pitch should be that serious. And if it was, again, a series of decisions where, yeah, man, we're absolutely getting cooked by the ref here, maybe at a point you might consider that. For the isolated incident, I don't agree with it. I understand. I think I understand why, like, they did it. It was a culmination of a bunch of things. Kudos to Sadio Mane. Kudos to Mendy as well in the dressing room. We hear them calling the players back out and them winning the whole thing.
Yeah, drama, controversy. But before we even, jumped outside of the final itself, Brahim Diaz got the chance to win the game in the last minute of the game. And Panenka, that failed. That's a failed Panenka. And do you think the pressure got too much? Because I think, I keep wondering to myself, right, there's this idea of home ground advantage. When you're hosting an entire tournament, does that advantage become pressure? Because it felt to me, at least, the entire time that these guys were under pressure to deliver, especially after how they qualified for the World Cup, for Afcon. Everything was smooth sailing. They were on a winning run, and you're at home. You should win things. I think that got too much, the controversy and all that stuff, and now is the moment. And he was supposed to be a shining light. He's a guy who performed the best of the Moroccan players, and when that moment came, it was just too big for him, I think. Any sympathy for the Los Blancos player?
The Panenka is such a divisive thing in football, right? Yeah. Because when it comes off, oh my goodness, genius, arrogance, not awed or overrun by the moment. Like, this is a player who owns the stage, and they are going to go with the audacious in that moment. Think of a Brahim Diaz, 5 goals in 5 games before he didn't score in the semifinals, and he's about to be crowned the player of the tournament. He's about to be the front runner for African Player of the Year. He's maybe about to get himself in the hat when he goes back to Real Madrid with the new coach, that maybe I should play more, right? And he's about to be the face of the Moroccan team, who are going to be crowned champions of Africa. And if he scores the Panenka, not just a penalty, if he converts the Panenka, Chuck, that's legacy defining already in his career. If he goes on to do nothing else in the shirt of Morocco, that is legacy defining. But the flip side of the Panenka is if the goalkeeper stands there and he just collects the ball that is just given to him, you just look stupid. You look stupid, and what we are saying now after the incident is, what the hell were you thinking? Why are you not just like pick a spot, hit it with power? Yes, you have been analyzed and they know what your favorite spots are, but whether you go there because that's your tried and trusted, or you go somewhere else because you are trying to pull the double bluff and you hit it hard, if the goalkeeper pulls off a great save, that happens in penalties sometimes, But when you do that, that feels like it is unjustifiable. It's unforgivable. It is bigger than the moment. And the thing about it for me, Chuck, I was watching that thinking, who the hell do you think you are? There's one man with the number 10 who's got Arabian descent in him, who does that in the biggest of moments, and it is Zinedine Zidane. You know Zidane, my brother. Also, did you not watch Sergio Aguero get saved in the exact same way by Mendy during COVID over in England?
I think Jay, it's the nerves. I think sometimes when I watch people take the penalty, take a Panenka shot for the penalty, there are people where you're like, okay, you can pull this off. For you, some people you're like, it was lucky that it went in. And I think Brahim's not quite the guy to pull off a Panenka because you have to sell the whole thing and make the keeper commit. But I think when players are not sure of themselves or when they're nervous, they go down the middle, whether with power or whether it's a Panenka, like, let me just hope the keeper does something that allows my shot to go in. So I don't think he was confident in that one. I think it was let me try it versus I know what I'm going to do. So it didn't come off, and I think that's if I think about the whole Brahim Diaz story, right? Transitioning from Spain to officially representing Morocco, and you're the new boy on the scene, and now you get to Afcon and you're the star. Like you said, if you score the penalty that gets in the crown, you're definitely a legend. In a space of 12, 16 months? You're now the guy, and your legacy surpasses the other guys who've been donning that jersey for as long as they've been. And so the stage was set, the lights were bright, unfortunately, but the Panenka failed him. But Jay, if we were to look broader, right, to the guy who did call back his teammates, so let's keep playing again. Sadio Mane did announce way before the final that it will be his last game. After that, I'm done. And the coach says, I don't agree with that. The whole nation doesn't agree with that. His teammates, if we had to have a say, would say, Sadio Mane, we want more of you. And he dates back to his performances in the previous campaign at the World Cup, to his previous campaign at Afcon, where he said he put his body on the line, recovering from injury and doing all these things for the national team. And even now, as old as he is, and this is only sports, right, where we say someone who's 33 is as old as he is, has lost a step or whatever, led his side quite well in terms of his contributions, because even when they were looking for answers, you don't pull off Sadio Mane because he's still an inspirational figure for Senegal. And when you look back at his legacy specifically for Senegal, what do you think of Sadio Mane, especially with obviously the Footballer of the Year, African Footballer of the Year awards, his time at Liverpool, his seasons where you thought to yourself, there's contention for actual Ballon d'Or winning here.
The greatest player in the world, Sadio Mane. Sadio boy, Chuck. I was telling a Liverpool friend of ours, Obi knows, that one of my not first memories of Sadio Mane, but like his first memory from me in a Liverpool shirt. Let me say that rather, because of course there's the fastest hat trick ever in Premier League history for Southampton, right? Like, well, Southampton have unearthed a gem from Senegal. And when he signs for Liverpool, who I believe when Sadio Mane signs for Jurgen Klopp, he's the first big domino in the Klopp revolution at Anfield, right? It's joined by Mo Salah the following season, and then there's Van Dijk, and then we've seen the trophies. But Mane was the first one. And I remember the first season, the 16-17 season, when that kicks off, Liverpool come to the Emirates as an Arsenal fan myself, right? What the combination of Coutinho and Mane did in that match, like, just left me traumatized. Like, Sadio Mane, like, the way he was moving on the pitch, and of course it was dramatized because, again, my team is losing and emotions are like a sky high. He seemed to be flying on the pitch. Literally, Chuck, like, the Arsenal players could not keep up with him pace-wise. They could not keep up with him in terms of physicality. Like, who is this dude? And relative to other African players, right? Sadio Mane is actually a bit slight in terms of his build and his frame. But the athleticism, the physicality, the pace, as I'm saying, the skill, this goal-scoring ability. And then when Salah does come to Liverpool, as I mentioned, he takes it upon himself. Well, he's asked to do it, but he doesn't throw a fit about it. He moves from the right-hand side and goes to play on the left. And they are a devastating combination. Even when the Egyptian doesn't pass him and he is blowing his top, which is something we'd never seen from Sadio Mane, right? And that incident, for example, for me, is actually another compliment to Mane, because in Mane's mind, it's not a give me the pass so that I can increase my numbers. In Sadio Mane's mind, which is how I've seen him play, which is why I love Sadio Mane. I really love Sadio Mane. He plays for team. Sadio Mane would lay his body on the line. You mentioned the injuries where he's trying to get back from injury just so that he can play. Again, not for his legacy, but to help his team. And at Liverpool, you saw him in the press. You saw him help out Robertson on his flank. You saw him give his absolute all so that the team can advance, right? And then he was rewarded with like a golden boot in the 18-19 season along with Salah and Gabon's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And Chuck,
when Africa was up,
most famously in my mind, right, in the first time we played FPL, there we were, final day of the season, and I started the last day like in second place, and I needed a differential. I looked at Salah, I looked at Mane, it's like, I'm going with Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane delivered the FPL title into my hands, Chuck. How can I not love this man?
The group title, not the overall thing.
Yeah, I was not the winner of FPL in the world. Like in our mini league, and so Sadio is forever a legend in my eyes. He's the greatest Senegalese player we've ever seen, and there's a very, 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 very strong argument in terms of overall that the continent has ever seen, because 2 African Player of the Year awards, which is the same as Salah, right? And I think Salah is greater than Eto'o. I think Salah is greater than Didier Drogba. And if this man, Sadio Mane, on the continent has surpassed Salah, right?
2-0.
What are we saying?
What we're saying, Jay, is that I don't know if we're going to fall on any side, but what we are saying is that on the continent when it's mattered most, and that's why the coach speaks so highly about him, Sadio Mane has delivered. Yes, he didn't score the winning goal in this campaign, but he showed up. He was a reference point to the young talent around him. He was an inspiration, and as his coach says as well, he's humble, and to what you were saying as well, plays for the team. And as much as people would wax lyrical about about Salah, people are saying he's the guy who scores the goal, but actually the talent at Liverpool is Sadio Mane, because every time he's been on the ball, you're like, this guy is just
better overall
unplayable.
player than Salah.
Unplayable.
In terms of ability, right?
Yes. The numbers favor Salah, match-winning
and
moments
that's hard to argue against.
Yeah.
And so that's the question of like who is greater, because that's not just ability, right? It is the numbers. It is like what you are doing to influence the games, to win the games for your team, and ultimately help them win the big prizes, which then gets back to the conversation of the big prizes they won together at Liverpool. Yes, Salah has gone on to win a league title without Mane, right, at Liverpool. But then when we look at what they've done with their national teams, which again, the argument of who's the better player it shouldn't just be down to team accolades, because your team is your team. And very honestly, the team, especially in this Afcon that Salah had with Egypt, were just lucky to be in the semi-final. Whereas the Senegalese, I've called them the Galacticos, like a team like full of stars. They've got a youngster from PSG on their bench. For crying out loud. They can call up a 20-year-old to replace Koulibaly in the semi-final, and then play in the final and not concede and still win. Like, super talented team. And that's who Sadio Mane was leading, right? But it does not take away from his performances, Chuck, because even in this AFCON, I saw him play his traditional position on the wing, right? But then at times they've needed him to be a playmaker, and he's come centrally and he's delivered on that beautifully as well.
And that's the thing with players with their ability. Then they become more versatile. We saw that, not to the same level, obviously. Wayne Rooney, drop deep, play 10, play 8 as well, because he just can do it. Whereas we know Mo Salah specializes in that particular slot of his. And it's no slight to him. That's what he does, and he does it to a very high level. We're just saying that Sadio Mane is more talented. And I think not quite ambidextrous, but his left foot was something that could be relied on in terms of contributing for goals, passes, and just the engine, like you're saying about him in terms of helping out Robertson at the back, just giving a general shift. Because what we do know about Liverpool is that the midfield was just there to put in a shift, not to create anything. The creative buzz at their pomp was down to Salah, Firmino, and Mane, and they did that to a devastating effect. Because if you look at their numbers, goals-wise, assists, just generally. In Europe, in the domestic league, they did numbers, and Sadio Mane was a very big contributor to that. So, I mean, for me, it didn't go well at Bayern Munich, but it's no wonder Bayern went searching for him.
That's the thing, Chuck.
Yeah.
Since he left Liverpool, he's not been the same player.
Yeah, true. And kudos to him, which he goes to play in Saudi, but still has enough of a level to go all the way to win Afcon. And we did say that he's got a star-studded side to back him up. But I think all in all, Jay, where do I have him? I don't know, Jay. I don't know if he's... I don't know, but he is a very talented player. I think his humility. If he was a bigger personality, it'd be easier sometimes to choose people because of what they speak, and then because sometimes if you can say something and back it up, like, see, he's the guy. But if you're humble but you're always delivering, I don't know. Sometimes you get left in the shadows a bit.
The other thing, Chuck, is if Thibaut Courtois is not Thibaut Courtois and somebody else in the goals of Real Madrid in that Champions League final, Sadio Mane probably wins man of the match, right? And you look at him as that's Mane's final, helping Liverpool to another Champions League title. Didn't happen, so it's not something we can really count towards his legacy. But maybe the debate is for another day in terms of where who ranks in those pantheon of greats. What we know for certainty is that Sadio Mane, he sits at the table with the most elite of African players of all time. And beyond even a football player, and he's in his own words, he doesn't want to be remembered as a great football player. He wants to be remembered as a great human. We know what he's done for his country. We know hospitals that he's built and what he continues to do, plowing back to his communities, because we know his story, where he's come from. It is such an improbable story that he has ended up where he has. And this to be a crowning moment in his career in the jersey of the country that he lives, breathes, bleeds, and dies for is something from us where we can tip our hats to him that what a champion, or what champions Senegal were, maybe in the face of impossible, highly improbable odds, and in a game that will be remembered some maybe for the wrong reasons, but will always be remembered. In terms of the tournament, Chuck, how are you going to remember this tournament?
I mean, there's a picture where Abogile Tom went to the VAR, but VAR was off. He couldn't make a call. But one thing I will say, Jay, Afcon has stayed the same as far as the minnows getting nothing. Like your Botswana, Zimbabwe is like, it's been ruthless. There's no chance to get a scrap, nyan. I mean, no wonder when you see someone rise like a Cape Verde, you're like, okay, where did you come from? You know, and they've been somewhat competitive, but those small teams, it's tough, right? What sticks out in my head, obviously, is the failed campaign from Bafana Bafana, because we went into the tournament with so much hype, believing that something would happen, but it wasn't enough ultimately. I think what does stick out, like finally for me, is the fact that our football still has some way to go in terms of South Africa being competitive, and you envy the last four in terms of the players that were plying their trade in Europe for those four sides, and how they play their football and where they find their talents from. So that's my thing, Uguti. There's still somewhere to go, because there is creme de la creme. There are talents that, I mean, no wonder France looks like what they do, because their players are of Moroccan descent, Senegalese descent, Nigeria, all over the world, you know. Sorry, all over Africa is what I'm trying to say. So it's that, Jay, and the fans. There's Anjuba want to salute.
Lumumba. I don't know the fan's
Saluting
name. I forgot the fan's name, but
yeah.
Patrice Lumumba.
I think that for me is a great sign for Africa, and just this is who we are. This is our heritage, and the colors, the vibe wasn't quite the same at Morocco like it would be at Ivory Coast. We understand different parts of Africa, but I think just the fans all the time steal the limelight, and just that, I think that's the images that will always stay in my mind.
You know, Chuck, thanks for bringing that to light, because I'm thinking about it now, and I don't want to start no controversy, but Senegal defeating the North Africans of Morocco, and that homage from the DRC fan to Patrice Lumumba, a liberator of note on this continent, which was then mocked by an Algerian player, and a Morocco who wanted to join the EU once upon a time, and to some extent don't view themselves fully as African, but have a distinct European idealistic view of themselves, to the point, as I'm saying, that they wanted to be part of the EU. That victory is all the more sweeter for those reasons. I'll leave that one as that. That's one of the standout things for me in the tournament. The thing that really stood out for me, Chuck, is the fact that the cream rose to the top in this tournament. As you say, the minnows got nothing from when Senegal put 4 past Botswana, and then it was just that, right? Mozambique, they had the result of the tournament from teams that you don't expect much. Them going to the last 16 for the first time. I remember when we were previewing the Afcon, saying that we expect Mozambique to go as far as the group stages, because they've never been beyond the group stages. So to our neighbors, shout out. That was wonderful.
The goalkeeper needs to stay put, eh? Like, dude, you've got defenders. Are you aware? Always, every game, I'm like, dude, chill. You've got defenders. Save a shot back there by your poles. But yeah.
Andre Onana at his absolute best. The cream rising to the top, though, Chuck. 7 of the last 8 in the quarterfinals. 7 of those teams are ranked in the top 8 of Africa. The one that didn't make it to the quarterfinals was Tunisia, and that's because they got beaten in the round of 16 by a team that was in the top 8, Mali, right? And the other team that replaced them in the quarterfinals were Cameroon, who have a history and a pedigree on the African continent. So this tournament was different from the last one. We didn't see your Cape Verdes, we didn't see your Mauritanians, we didn't see your Equatorial Guineas do the things that brought the 2023 Afcon to life, right? What we saw here is that the elite were the elite, that there was a stated order, and it followed that even down to the final. We all came into this tournament thinking that it's going to be Senegal versus Morocco, number 1 and 2 on the continent. No surprises there that they ended up in the final. You know, it's not greater than the 2023 Afcon for me, because there's more than just football, right? In terms of when you see people getting water poured on their heads because they are overheating and what is happening. Ivory Coast fans are absolutely going crazy and berserk because they're out of the tournament while they're hosting it in the group stages, and then they end up winning the whole thing. It was just phenomenal. And also Bafana got to the semifinals of that one, so there was that vested interest. But in terms of the standard of football, this one was higher. And what we continue to hear is that it was aided by the fact that it was happening in Morocco during winter, and along with the pitches being pristine, we saw the players who play at the highest level. You say you envy those teams who have players who are based in Europe. Those players shone at this tournament. You think about the different teams. Ahmad at Ivory Coast, Algeria with Mahrez and forgot they won the kid. But then Brian Diaz, Sadio Mane, as you say, the Ndiaye, the other Senegalese superstars, Iwobi, Lookman, Osimhen with Nigeria. Big players showed up at this tournament because the conditions were right for them to do so, and that extended to the teams as well. So the standout is that, and the question for the rest of the continent is, can you come up to this level? And we'll see if they can do that. Yeah, that is the AFCON 2025. My predictions going to this one for a whole year. Where that 18th January, mark your calendars, because Bafana will be crowned champions for the second time in their history, and that didn't happen, so heartbreak. But we move. We'll be at the World Cup, and Nigeria will be watching us on television. But that was AFCON 2025. Senegal crowned as champions. Morocco continue their drought, 50 years. We'll see what they do at the World Cup. We'll see what they come back to do in 2028. Maybe the AFCON is coming to Africa. We know that African fans feel some type of way about that because of 2010. But if that happens, if it doesn't happen, we'll be talking about it. We'll be back here talking about everything that you love in football. I say football, it must be sports. We're going to get back to more sporting content, but we had to pay homage to what was a great time in terms of the elite tournament, the elite competition in African football. If you're here, if you've not yet done it, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the content. Please comment in the comment section. We love hearing from you. We love responding to your thoughts. Continue sharing your thoughts with us across all social media platforms as well. You can find us at 2Upfront Pod. You can find me at J_Mzulu. Chuck is at Chuck2Up. From myself, Jay, au revoir. Les Lions of Teranga.
2 years is a long time, but we're looking to host the AFCON in South Africa in 2028. And if you would, be bold. Mark your calendars then for Bafana. Who knows?